second myth that is equally important is that there are things that are quick fixes. That if I just get this one thing right, then everything will change. The opposite is true.
Inner does not mean individual. It can easily suggest that to people. But human development is deeply personal and inherently collective. All processes of deep development have this paradoxical quality.
Self-help, self-development is something you do by yourself. And this is basically completely faulty. You don't grow in relationship to yourself. You basically grow in relationship to others, to your context, in relationship where you're actually seeing yourself and listening to your system, the external system, and how can I improve my relationships to those systems.
Secondly, this has a lot to do with how we think and feel. And that's not just a personal matter. The notion that our thoughts are private, that we're the only one who has them, is part of the confusion of the modern culture.
Adult development can and must thrive in the context of human groups, and that the individual learning we're talking about is really about team learning, which is something I've spent a lot of my time thinking about. And I'm looking forward to talking more about this with you.
Yeah. And I guess that when doing the Klarna story, being like injected by dopamine and external validation every day, and still got that crash, and then started to like, okay, what is really important here? I could always like look back on that experience and, okay, maybe I should start again, try to discover what they are my like internal values and what is underneath there, and maybe I can rediscover that somehow. So I would never have gone into that space, I think, if I didn't have that first experience when I was 20.
It's imperative that we see these as immensely practical problems. Now, obviously, the SDGs are pointing us at, the global goals are pointing us at practical problems in the world around water and agriculture and climate change. But the doing of it, the actual change process itself, I think can only occur with new ideas, new tools, and a kind of a new imperative. And I think that's the essence of this manifesto, a new imperative to embed human development, individual and collective, in all of our key institutions.
We, from the beginning, are eager to learn, and then something happens, both in school, family, society, but at work. So how do you then install that again? And I think it's playfulness, I think it's time, and it's also important to remind everybody that most of your development might not happen when you zoom in and work really hard. It actually is when you zoom out and reflect.
Yeah.
And this is how you characterize unwise people. They are always in the belief that they are right. They lack curiosity. They lack experience. They have no creativity. They don't solve complex problems. They are unkind, inert. They never take advice. They have no empathy. They follow the crowd, and they only see things from one perspective. So this is what you aim for if you want to be unwise. But of course, if you want to save the world, and if you want to be wise and lead a good life, you just do the opposite.
You know, in the whole notion of all the kinds of 20th century inputs to human development that go on, corporate universities, mentoring programs, leadership development, coaching, all of these things tend to go outside, go out beyond the organization. You take a pause. You hope, you have what educators would call the problem of transfer. You hope it will be possible to kind of bring these learnings back into the organization. The problem of transfer is an enormous problem, and the best way to solve it is to eliminate its need in the first place by actually knitting these activities into the very fabric of the workday or the work week.
It's not one silver bullet. just by the sheer essence of it being huge, there's diversity there. So how do we create actually new opportunities, new ways of to address how people have their own learning preferences? So of course, we're very, as a technology company, we're very passionate around how technology can do that with scale and speed.
And the cool thing is regarding to scaling this is that can be done by peers. It doesn't have to be done by a professional. So evidence-based tools, they're databases that contain more tools than a psychologist could ever fit in their head, and that needs to be matched to the individual. If that can be done properly, we're talking about massive scalability. And if we're talking about practicing over time, the second myth, or the second key, technology can actually enable this in ways that we have yet to discover, but are and many organizations on the verge to, or actually have.
Now, there are several theories that underlie the understanding and analysis of inner transformation in the context of sustainability. What they have in common is that they all show that systemic change and personal transformation are deeply interconnected, and that addressing mindsets might hold the most potential for transforming systems, for supporting sustainability.
One disconnection that is central is a disconnection from ourselves. We don't even listen to our bodies. We think that we have bodies, but actually most of our decision-making process is actually emotional. When you sever the link between the frontal lobe and the emotional system, you can't take decisions.
We don't have a lack of sense-making in society today. We have a lack of co-sensing, right? Where across bubbles, we bring together all the relevant members of our community, of our ecosystems, into a process of sensing together. Is that happening? So the co-sensing your system from the edges, is that happening in the ecosystem you're operating in with your organization?
And this idea is also expressed in integral theory. It argues that when we are working on change, we can draw on 4 areas: behavioral change, systems change, cultural change, and psychological dimensions which relate to changes in our consciousness. So importantly, if we choose to work on one of these 4 areas to the exclusion of the others, we might not see the kind of change we are hoping to see.
I just want to ask them just a few quick questions, and from that, I'll have a sense of how developmental is your culture. And what would my questions be? I would ask each person, are you aware of a personal growth goal that you are actually working on, that is a part of what has some share of your mind kind of at work? That's one sort of question. Usually the conversation ends there, right? Okay, but you know, the next questions would be sort of how regularly do you get to actually work on this? Who else knows about it at work? What difference will it make for people at work and people you love outside of work if you actually make these changes?
The journey from here to there is a journey that's both an outer journey and an inner journey. The outer journey takes you to the edges of the system. So where, you begin, and that, Peter shared the Royal Dutch Shell story, the experiments at the margin, right? Where does the new happen first? At the edges, at the periphery of the system, not in the center. And the inner journey kind of takes you to your, deeper sources of knowing, kind of that Bob and others, Jennifer, were talking about. And then kind of when something is emerging from that, kind of we bring that into the wall by linking head, heart, and hand.
So what helps is humility, the phrase accessing our ignorance or our unknowingness so that we're curious to learn. Perspective seeking, there's been a lot of research that shows actually actively asking others about their perspectives or clarifying uncertainty is actually what fosters developmental growth more than anything. But as well, we need compassion for others and ourselves, and appreciation and gratitude.
For the new academy, right? For that would be really connecting to this century's challenges. Something else needed to be written there, which is, let no one enter here who is not willing to investigate the deeper issue the deeper condition that all the issues outside are intimately connected to the issues within. So I think it's just kind of an investigation of that mirroring, so that when we see an issue outside, that we bend the beam of observation back onto ourselves. I think that's one of the most fundamental practices.
So the idea that civilization exists at a purely technical level, it can be measured by GDP, it can be measured by all the ways we orient and define progress in our modern societies, is kind of a crazy idea. And we all know it at some level, that happiness is not a function of how much stuff we have. Happiness is a function of how we live, the quality of our relationships, how we relate to our sense of purpose. Do we have a sense of purpose? Are we here for a reason? Do we live to serve someone beside acquiring more stuff? I mean, it's almost silly to have to say that, because the answers are kind of patently obvious in the last, moments of our life. It's very unlikely we're going to do an inventory of all of our material acquisitions. But it is very likely we'll reflect on the people, the moments, the times when something really special was occurring, and where we felt very connected to ourselves and our world.
In recent decades, various competency frameworks have emerged to support sustainable development. However, it is only recently that such frameworks have also recognized the importance of inner qualities. One example are these 5 clusters of transformative qualities, which were identified in a large-scale study that followed the most recent International Climate Conference, COP25. They include qualities such as self-awareness, self-reflection, compassion, and values-based courage. And these qualities in turn relate to certain attitudes that are crucial in achieving the sustainable development goals.
Everything that we do is very much inside out and not necessarily top down, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes from an understanding. You don't necessarily have to, like all the decisions. You might not have to buy into the direction 100%, but you have to understand it. Yeah. So it goes from understanding to communication, right? And instead of going the opposite, that we inform people what we are about, or
which at the kind of the middle of it is about how to slow down, so you can actually be aware of what's going on. Because if you're not aware of what's going on, you can't possibly know what you need to do.
But it also, if we stay on the track of individual expressions of this, we're actually seeing that, the mental health epidemic that is coming from this meta crisis, because a human being is actually born to feel competent, to develop, to be on their developmental edge, and to contribute to things that are bigger than them. We're not built to wake up in the morning and think, what do I want to become happy? We're much more built neurologically to empathize, be part of a whole, and sense into what is the context here, what can I contribute, and what is needed in this context, not focusing on what do I want, basically.
How do we deal with someone who's frustrating? How do you make something constructive out of frustration? How do you turn doubt into curiosity?
And so, do we have time is also a function of the question of why are we here? Does the human race need to survive? Is the Earth actually, concerned? Or are we like the dinosaurs in some way? There's lots of bigger questions that come into view when you start taking these, of what are assumptions that are holding us.
How do we change how we live? That would be a way to express this in practical terms. What does it mean to even think about that?
So social contagion suggests that we change together or we don't change at all. The likelihood that you will be able to make a fresh start increases exponentially with the number of people around you that make a fresh start. And your fresh start increases the likelihood that others will be able to make a fresh start. And that's why I think it's so cool that we're right now experiencing an opportunity where so many are ready to make a fresh start.